All right, good evening. Tonight is May 5th. We are reconvening the Budget Committee, and if I could start with the roll call, starting with Kathleen.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here?
Here.
Here.
Tom Bradbeer here.
Rick Riker here. Eric Schlogel here.
Okay, and I think we have Adriana Reinhardt joining us online tonight. So for the record, at this point, it looks like...
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Adriana.
Thank you.
Robert, Kurt, Rob, and Seth are absent to this point. Before we kick off the presentation for Administration Department budget presentation, I'm going to ask JC to give us some updates. We've got some new inserts here. So JC, give us an update on what we've got.
Yeah, so I'll go over the blue sheets first. So you have one that is labeled Lands and Buildings, that is page 316. And per your guys' direction last Thursday of wanting to change the allocation of 18% to the wastewater debt service, you will see a reduction. And so the columns that you want to focus on are the manager proposed to the manager approved, and you would see that $222,000 reduction. Those are highlighted in red for the special payments, as well as the appropriated fund balance down at the bottom that also decreases by the $222,000. I know it's mislabeled at the top. There is a stormwater, but it's actually the wastewater table. So ignore the verbiage and the header at the top, but that's really supposed to be a page 218 replacement, and so the tables are correct, and you will see there's the addition of the $222,000 from the Urban Renewal Agency, highlighted in red again, and then just showing potentially when you go to adopt the budget tonight that this is what you would be adopting, and changing the contingencies in wastewater. So I chose to put the excess $222,000 in contingencies because council hasn't formally made a policy decision. This gives flexibility for those dollars to be in the wastewater fund, and as soon as council potentially makes that decision of what they'd like to do with this allocation, it gives maximum flexibility for the council. And so those are the two blue sheets. And then to go along with that, you have a pink sheet. This is the URA budget, which is later tonight, and I'm just going to go over it now, and we'll probably touch on it later tonight as well. These are updates to the table. It doesn't change the budget of the URA. It just updates with that $222,000 allocation for the wastewater debt service, and you'll see there's an amount in there for fiscal year 27 and 28, and then a adjustment to the special payments, which again, it doesn't change the allocation in total for special payments into the projects. It just allocates it to the specific projects by that difference of $222,000. If there's any questions regarding that, I guess I could take them right now. If not, we can start the rest.
Do we have any questions for JC? Seeing none, thank you, JC. We will move on to the agenda item, Administration Department budget presentation, and welcome City Manager Aaron Kubik.
All right, good evening, Budget Committee members. I have the pleasure today of providing the Administrative Department proposed budget for fiscal year 27. So there's a number of divisions that I'll be talking to you about today, and those are all highlighted there, from policy and legislative operations all the way down to benefits. When I'm done with each one of those, I'll pause, I'll ask if you have any questions, and then I'll move on to the next division. So to start off with, all of these divisions are following the strategic plan that encompasses all of council's goals and the associated work plan. The majority of these programs that I'll be talking to you about today are programs that are not necessarily directly seen by the public or even by yourself, but they're services that are provided to our internal customers in order to make sure the city is operating efficiently and effectively. The first item is the policy and legislation, which could be found on page 129 of your budget book, for general program operations. So this is revenues are all general fund in this department, so they're non-dedicated, so they are there's some flexibility there, and that consist of, because we know all property taxes go to public safety, which we talked about in a previous budget meeting. The majority of these general fund revenues come from franchise fees, business taxes, and other things like that. The budget for these items serve as the city's whole, and really what this next line item shows you is this is where we hold our contingency. So the budget, which is on page 130, you can see here, the notable change really that I wanted to highlight is the $2 million reduction in contingency. Now, this is within our fund balancing parameters as defined by City Council, because we're not defining it by the actual proposed budget, but we're defining it by the annual comprehensive financial report. And at the end of the year, the annual financial report will show and be demonstrated off of what we actually spent, not on full expenditure. So we do project that we will be within the financial budget for that, but it is a reduction of the $2 million. The majority of that reduction in the contingency, just as a reminder from the first meeting we had, was primarily due to additional FTE in police and fire. The next policy and legislation is resting sites. So this could be found on page 131 and 132 of your budget book. The costs associated with the resting sites are there on the screen, but it is anything from fencing, garbage, porta potty, some insurance, and some administrative costs. As you may know, we have 3 resting sites currently right now, and we will be transitioning those resting sites to the grant-approved Parker Place that we have that will slated to start June 1st. Notable here that I want to talk about on page 132 are all the items in red: contractual, professional services, direct charges, and indirect charges. So there's a reduction of $241,000. What this represents is it represents our anticipation that we're going to be going from 3 resting sites down to 1 resting site to maybe potentially down to 0 resting sites once Parker Place starts to get geared up. So we anticipate that we will not be needing the large amount of resources that we've had currently right now in the adopted fiscal year 26 budget, because we will be closing those sites down as Parker Place comes online. I'm pausing now here. This is for the policy and legislation budget between the 2 items that I talked about. Are there any questions?
Before we go to questions, Aaron, if I could just add for the record, after we've taken payroll, that we do have Councilor Pell and Bob has joined us, so if we can add them to the attendance, and then I will open it up to the committee for questions. Victoria?
With this reduction, do these dollars, maybe this isn't the right way to ask it, but I'll ask it anyway. Do they go back into the general fund?
Yeah, these were primarily general fund dollars, so that's just less of a general fund expense.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Further questions? If I may, Aaron, I have one. On the resting sites, you have contractual and professional services. Are those independent contractors?
Those are items like many of our porta potty, trash pickup, fencing, garbage, et cetera. Some of those items have to be done there.
Okay. And I asked for the reason as it relates to like yesterday's workshop. Do you ask for those independent contractors' financial statements or business plans?
No.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Carry on.
Okay. Next is Administrative Services, Mayor Council. This is really the department that works closely with council in developing the goals, the work plan, and helping council form those throughout the year. It includes trainings for City Council, League of Oregon Cities. The majority of our City Council members do go to League of Oregon Cities each year, which is a great training opportunity for them so they can connect with their fellow colleagues. This budget is really pretty stable from the most part, just a small increase in contractual and professional services, which is just some increased cost to minute taking and some software maintenance costs. Other than that, the budget is relatively stable. Under management services, which can be found on page 247, This is where we do citywide administration, policy goals for council, and we do other things like public relations, intergovernmental relations in this department. There are some notable changes here. The majority of that, there's a $108,000 reduction. The majority of that comes from personnel services. The personnel services under this, all of those individuals are non-bargaining, and as it's been mentioned before, we've reduced non-bargaining potential increases with the new salary structure, and this just represents that decrease in potential budgeted numbers for an implementation of a non-bargaining salary change. Under administrative services, we also have legal services. We do have legal counsel associated with the city. They do a number of things from an internal and external perspective, but they help with contracts, ordinances and resolutions, land use issues, legal advice, etc. Relatively stable from last year. There was a small increase at $27,000. Primarily that's in personnel services, and that just represents the normal changes that would occur potentially with step increases and personnel costs throughout the year. Just flipping the page again to 254 through 255, we have the Human Resources Department, which provides a lot of internal services to our customers. They do comp and classification plans, recruitment, labor relations, administration of personnel policies, and benefit administration. We have 4 FTE in that department. The reduction of $43,000 is mainly realized in personnel services. Again, similar to the other services I talked about, all of these individuals are non-bargaining, and we're just projecting less from last year as a potential increase for any change in the non-bargaining salary structure. We also have operations. So this is where we're centralized for a lot of our departments, whether it be payroll, finance, central services, printing, etc. It comes out of here. We do charge our services to all the different programs. We provide that internal support, which is necessary for the operation of the organization. Not a lot of change here. There is a $115,000 change. Overall, that's mainly the change in contingency, and that increase is there to keep with our contingency reserves that are required in our budget policy. And that's conclusion of administrative services. Any questions?
We'll start with Nancy.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. Let's see, if we go back to, let's see, I think it was the mayor, under contractual services, there's $270,000 proposed. The actuals in '25 were $139,000. So I was wondering if you could explain that fairly significant increase.
So again, part of that is actual versus projected, and we try to project as much as possible. And so the actual is usually, just like personal services is going to be, or professional services, will likely be less than what is projected from a budget perspective. The contractual and personal services represents costs associated with strategic planning and those costs, software maintenance costs, meeting and travel, training, and other items like that. For instance, a trip to DC to help with our legislative efforts. Those items are items that fall under some of these costs.
Yeah, that's almost double from '25 to what you're proposing for '27. That's fairly significant. I mean, it just kind of popped out at me.
Sure.
That, it was a question. On On page two.
Yeah, JC's trying to look up what the costs were that associated with that 135 that you mentioned as actual versus projected.
Right, which JC and I have talked about, budgeting off of actuals versus budgeting off of budget. And while he's looking that up, on page 248, which is Admin Services Management, you have a total positions of 5, but there's only 3 listed there. City Manager, City Recorder, and Information Coordinator. Are there 2 other positions that are not listed, or
Let me see what you're looking at.
page 248?
There we go. What's that?
It's missing the 2 executive positions, so we have some hidden rows here. So that's just a mistake.
Oh, you have hidden rows.
Yeah, so
I
there's
love
2
Excel.
executives, so yeah, there's 2 executives at the front there, so the position that is at the front counter of admin and management, as well as Julie Hall's position that is
Okay.
right behind the front desk.
I
Those are
figured
hidden.
they were there somewhere. Okay. And then under finance, on page 251, your personnel services increased 3.8% from 24 to 25, and then there's a 23% jump from 25 actuals to budget in 26, and then only another 2.5% budgeted for 27, which that 23% seemed, I didn't see it reflected in the employee numbers below, the personnel numbers.
We haven't got to finance yet, but I'd be more than happy to answer that question. I've had quite a bit of turnover the last few years, and so what you'll see is budgeting at a full staff of the full 14 FTE, as well as the estimation of what we may hire in at. In some years, we get people who are more qualified than others.
Okay, so when you have that kind of turnover and you're not meeting the actual budget numbers, how do you recoup those costs? Where does that go?
So that's a good question. So if there is a savings, it either A, goes into fund balance, or we will issue credits back to the departments in total if there's an actual savings, because we believe here at the city that we don't have the right to just hold money just to hold money. So if there are credits that need to be given back to departments, because this is an internal service and our customers are departments, we issue credits back for those direct charges, to where you may see some of those direct charges are less than potential, or indirect charges rather, are less than those budgeted amounts as well.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for Administrative Services? Yes, Tom?
Thank you, Aaron. Excuse me. Each of these divisions has contingency reserve. And I didn't add them all up, but according to the policy, it would be generally 10, 15%. And that's on top of the general fund, ending fund balance or contingency, which is 25%. Is there a need for contingencies in the Administrative Services Department?
Well, I think there are. I mean, I think all departments and divisions should have reserves and contingencies associated with their operations. But I understand what you're trying to say with regards to the general fund having the 25%, and these are,
On top of that?
yeah.
So I'll just add to what Aaron's talking about. Yes, every fund should have some need for contingencies so that there isn't a disruption in service, as well as every year seems to be something new that comes along. I don't know if you've heard some of the other discussions, but we've had some legal payouts to also make, which normally aren't budgeted. And so having the flexibility to be able to have about 45 days worth of operations can help absorb some of those unexpected expenses.
Good, Tom. Okay, any other questions? Oh, sorry, Tom, I jumped the gun. Back to you.
Well, no, it's a separate question.
Go ahead.
I have to admit that I'm a compulsive editor. And as I read through the budget, I'm looking for typographical errors just so I can satisfy that drive to edit. And I found one. And I was so elated. Throughout this document, there are hardly any. Maybe this is the only one. And ironically, it's in the finance department. And even more ironic is that it has to do with the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement, which is a great award and well-deserved by the quality of this publication. But there are 2 bullets there that repeat each other. So thank you for leaving something for the editor.
Thank you, Tom.
You have to put a question mark at the end of that. Don't you think?
I'll use the Barry Eames approach, don't you think?
Do we have other questions for Administrative Services? Aaron, for the sake of not belaboring this every single category, if you will just pause and let me know if there are ever any independent contractors in your presentation tonight that you ask them for their financials or their business plan. I'll stop asking the question every time.
There may be certain situations where something arises that would require us to do something like that, but it's not a normal practice.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to IT, which is part of support services. This could be found on page 275 through 276. This represents 5 FTE that we have to represent all of the services that we have. They do quite a bit. Some of it is listed there on the screen for you. Primarily, there's a reduction of $21,000 in the total budget, which is, of course, a good thing. There is an increase in personnel services of $33,000, and that represents just typical increases of staff members moving through their merit increases and et cetera, what's necessary, and PERS, et cetera. There is a transfer contingencies in fiscal year 26. There was a one-time transfer to the hardware replacement fund, and future allocations for hardware replacement fund will be done through direct charges, so we don't see that as being budgeted this year. That's why that's a 0 and minus 100,000 as we're accounting for it in a different way. And contingency just changed to stay within our contingency policy. We have also IT replacement. This is Fund 814. This can be seen on page 278. This is a new fund. This is the first year of this program, and it is something that we're setting up to be similar to fleet services. IT has a lot of stuff and a lot of equipment, and we want to make sure that we have the ability to save for it and replace it. And so we're setting up this fund similar to fleet services. So this is new, and it's shown as $980,000 for that fiscal year 27. And questions on IT, and I think we have Ken is online. He's our IT director. Unfortunately, he could not be physically here today, but if you do have specific IT questions, we do have him on the line to help assist with those answers.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Rick?
Thank you, Aaron. So going back one slide to the $980,000 for capital outlay, is there a generalized breakdown of like 5 different categories of how that is spent or planned to be spent? Equipment only, or is it software, or?
So,
That
go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, that is for hardware replacement, and really what this fund is a different mechanism for the various divisions to budget for the items that they were replacing on an annual basis anyway. So our desktop, laptop, tablet computers have a 5-year life cycle, and divisions are budgeting every year based on a data we provide of what is due for replacement that fiscal year, but that was coming out of their operating budget. This is something that JC worked with all the divisions, and now they have a separate fund, so they're saving every year towards those replacements. That $980,000 in the past would have been in each of the individual division budgets, if that makes sense.
Yes. Also, I realize with Windows 11, there were some major hardware changes for that, so I can recognize that. But are we looking at this amount reoccurring every single year?
I would say something close to that amount every year, and that includes from specifically the IT division, we have servers, we have enterprise storage, we have a lot of wired and wireless networking. From other divisions, there's their personal computers, but there's monitors, there's printers, so it's gathering all those technology devices and planning and saving towards their replacement. So that kind of rolls. Some items have a 5-year life cycle, others might be, we'll take a printer. A printer might have a 7 or 8 year life cycle, but at the end of that 8 years, they've saved money for it, maybe they don't need to replace it, so the next year they're changing their allocation. But I would say you'll see this number for this fund staying around that amount every year.
I think
as inflation obviously impacts things, but.
I think staff was looking at this when we were looking at it from an inventory perspective and coming up with the numbers and looking at what we were putting away in the past. I believe it was somewhere around $7 million of liability that we have, replacement costs that we need identified.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, I have Victoria.
So before, where were these funds coming from? Several different accounts, or?
Yeah, Ken started to mention that.
Yeah,
they were,
I did.
They were set aside.
catch
They
it all.
would be, if we looked at every one of those, the department budgets, you would see maybe a slight reduction in those costs. I remember going through all the divisions with
Yes.
that, and there were just reductions. We're cutting that out because it's all going
And
to this
making a
fund
single
now.
account.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, my question is, I'm sorry, I'm hoarse tonight. Is this budget adequate to incur the costs associated with machine learning and artificial intelligence? It clearly will have an impact on hardware and software, and probably most importantly, staff development and training. Is this budget designed to accommodate municipal applications of machine learning?
This budget is strictly for hardware, so yes, there could be changes going forward in personal computers or even servers, from that matter, to accommodate some of those technologies. But this is kind of based on what we know needs to be replaced. I would say most divisions are factoring in inflation, they're factoring in hardware increases. I can't tell you right now what a desktop computer is going to cost in 6 months, let alone 18 months. So I think we're all factoring that in. And as this is something that's kind of new to us, I think we'll learn a lot by this time next year.
Okay. Any other questions in IT? Okay, thank you, Aaron. Carry on.
Next up is workers' compensation. So this provides for wage replacement on injury and illness care related to workplace injuries. We have formed a partnership with and are insured through the State Accident Insurance Fund Corporation, SAFE, where we do claims processing, they do risk management services for us, return to work representation, and they assist with employee injury at work programs. So we try to do, part of this program also is if we do have someone that's injured at work, we try to get them to come back to work at a different level. So if they can't do something physical, we provide them opportunities to work in the office and do those kind of things so that we can keep them a productive colleague and keep them in their positions. We do have a safety committee that's associated with this also in this budget. That is required by OSHA for us to do that. Our safety committee is a group of our colleagues that review injuries and accidents, they conduct job hazards, they review and update our safety policies, they do some investigation work, and they conduct site inspections to make sure that we have a safe environment that we're working in. When it comes to workers' compensation, there is a slight increase in contractual and professional services, and then contingency in order to meet the contingency fund balance. And the contractual service increase of $53,000 is mainly our just increase through SAFE and small dollars for some medical training also for OSHA. And that's workers' compensation.
Questions for workers' comp? I see none.
Next is insurance, which is general insurance, similar to what you would think you'd have for your home and your house and your car and those kind of things. We contract with City County Insurance Services. We call it CIS. This is made up of cities and counties and special districts throughout the state of Oregon who we partner together and pool our resources so we can get the most economical insurance coverage. And they've been very good to work with over the years. They provide our general liability, property coverage, car, auto, cyber, and excess quake insurance. It's just some examples. The increase related to contractual and professional services is just some of the increases due to the premiums through CIS, and then contingency change is the change based on our financial policies.
Questions on general insurance? Looks like we have none.
We have a benefits administration fund, which can be found on page 290. It's our wellness program. We do fitness reimbursements to encourage healthy lifestyles. The healthier our colleagues are, the less medical expenses we have, which keeps our insurance rates down. So our wellness program provides a lot of additional benefits to our colleagues to keep them healthy. We have a reduction overall of the total requirements of $54,000. The main part of that is contingency. We have built up a healthy contingency in this category and have been, in this year, proposing a reduction of those funds to keep us within the financial parameters.
I'm going to start questions with Victoria.
I'm just wondering, what are some of those programs? I'm just really curious.
Sure. So we have a reimbursement for, say for instance, if you want to join an athletic club, you get reimbursed there. We have some of our own personal health challenges that we do, and the benefits committee comes together and we try to challenge each other to do, Fitbit reimbursement, and let's see how many steps we can get in, and we do things like that.
And those are those like the insurance company has like a buffet of things that you can pick from that would satisfy, or does the city come up with their own? Or I'm just curious how that works. The insurance, I think I said state, but I meant insurance.
There's just some general go-tos that are industry standards when it comes to benefit committees, and we just try to do the best we can to provide that buy-in from everybody. And ultimately, you're trying to do preventative. You're trying to be preventative on people's health.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that too, there's some ergonomic equipment in there too.
Yeah.
As well as we built up a healthy fund balance and we decided to replace half, with the fire chief's help, we replaced over half of our AEDs because they were really, 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 really old. And so he's trying to bring us up to a new standard.
Yeah, when it comes to ergonomics, the benefits committee goes around and they'll do assessments, office assessments. So if you're like, man, I want to know what I'm doing wrong, or my wrist is hurting, and they'll come in They, get the measurements out and they get it, and we have chair days so you can get, take a look at different chairs to have, or they call it a chair rodeo, and do other things like that just to try to keep us comfortable and healthy.
Kathleen, I had you on the list, but did that answer your question before you got to ask it? Okay. Do I have other questions and benefits? Okay, please proceed.
Well, from an administration department, that does conclude my presentation, and I always think it's extremely important to have warm and fuzzies at the end of a budget presentation, so pictures of cute animals help.
I do have an answer to the previous question for the mayor and council. So if we're going back to page 246, you will notice, yes, there are lower actuals than the budget. There is $50,000 placemarked in this budget if there needs to be a special election, as well as there is a new expense in here for the lobbyists that we've hired and which since have gone to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me on the special election thing. That has come in handy a few times in past years when we weren't expecting to do a special election, but for one reason or another, council said, we need to have a May election for something, and those aren't cheap. And so that does provide that opportunity for us to cover that cost.
Thank you. Thanks for following up on that, JC. Do we have questions overall on Aaron's presentation this evening? Okay, and then Aaron, nothing further from you for this?
Not at this moment, but I'll be back up later.
Okay, sounds good. At this point of the evening, I'm going to open the podium and ask if we have any members of the public that would like to comment on the topic of the budget. I have more before we get to open it up. My apologies to members of the public. That was only Aaron's portion of administration. We get JC as well.
Good evening. My name is Mindy Ellerman, and I am the accounting supervisor, and I will be doing the finance presentation. So I'm going to discuss the department organization, the programs, the department efficiencies that we have, and then some of the trends and challenges that we are facing. So finance has two main sides. We have the accounting and financial reporting side, and then we have the customer service side. So for the accounting and the financial reporting side, we deal with the budget, we deal with audit, we process accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, we oversee the treasury activities, financial control and reporting, grant administration, miscellaneous billing, and then other supported services. And then the customer service side, they do the utility billing, they provide customer service, they process the business tax, the lodging tax, parking tickets and municipal citations, parking permits. They do the daily cash balancing, lien tracking, reporting, billing, and other licensing that we have. So finance for 27 is pretty flat. We only have a 1% increase. Our increase is in personnel services. Part of this is non-bargaining and adjustments, not knowing kind of where we're at. And then everybody else is in a bargaining group that is currently under negotiation. So we had to build in some flexibility with our best guess of what that's going to look like. And the majority of our staff is still newer, and they are all moving through their steps. There is a small decrease in materials and supplies, and that is primarily from the creation of the equipment replacement fund. The contractual services are down. The biggest reason for contractual services being down is meter reading. That is where the meter reading contract was housed, and now that that is all done in-house, we don't have to pay for the contract. We do still have a small amount budgeted for the technology piece that we need for our meter readers to have their handheld devices and the software for those. And then our direct charges are down slightly, and that's due to reduction in general insurance for us. General insurance is charged out based on allocations for number of staff. And since there have been 13 new positions this year, that provides a decrease for finance. Finance budget changes. So we do not have any personnel changes, just the staff moving up through their steps. And then some of the other contractual services, the technology costs for meter reading, our banking services, our investment advisors, our financial software maintenance, and then all of the printing and mailing that we use Aspire for. Some of our efficiencies, we have gone very heavy in technology. We do check scanning, we process electronic payments, actually both sides of the house. We have the citywide business software. We have the IVR, interactive voice response system, and the big win with that one this year, they have added a Spanish version of the IVR for our customers. And then we have our web payment portal. And then the other piece is we actually removed our third-party accounts payable processor. And so we are now doing that all in-house. Due to some of the technology that we have now, we can do it more efficiently. Some of the efficiencies for staffing is that we have a contract with Aspire for all of the stuffing and mailing of our utility bills, so we don't have to have additional staff to make that happen. And then we also contract out our investment advising services. Some of the trends and challenges ahead, utilization of added functionality with upgrades to the financial system. Technology is always changing, and they're constantly making changes that we have to then figure out how it works with what we have. We are very technology dependent. New budget and finance reporting requirements. We have all of the compliance for federal and state funds. So example, the safe drinking water revolving loan funds, and other such things are the CDBG grant, we have federal forfeiture funds, and we have all the compliance with those. And then also financial planning for public works and public safety. And then that is it.
Thank you for that presentation, Mindy. I'll open it up to questions, starting with Nicholas.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the meter reading was moved in-house, is that correct? So what's the difference between what we saved on the contracts piece and then bringing that in-house? Is there, like, was it more than just that 13,000 or whatever was saved?
So the number of what is saved between the contract and like what we kept in there for software is more like 40,000. Okay. There's a lot more to it than just the cost of the contract. Part of it is the customer service that we can provide. And I think one of the big pieces too is for Jason and his staff is with having our own people who look at, they're actually looking, they're just not reading the meters. When they go out there to read meters, if something doesn't look right, they're putting in service tickets and they're getting things looked at. And so we're finding they're able to get on the repairs and look at things that we weren't doing before. And then there's also there were some issues with some of the meter reading before, and we've actually found where the issues are and have been able to bill better and more accurately than what was under the contract.
Right. So the savings that are more than what was in there. That's great.
Yeah. And
Yeah, just to remind everybody, that's actually like kind of started 2 years-ish ago. So the metering contract was, I think, like around $130,000. We had to go back out for bid, and the price exponentially doubled. And then we really looked at bringing that in internally at that point because we felt the right timing, the right opportunity. I'm guessing Jason's going to add on to all that.
I just wanted to make it clear that there was a net increase in bringing meter reading on board, but it was Because of the increase in price to the contractor, it ended up only being about $40,000 to hire those two people and bring that function on ourselves, $40,000 increase over what the contract was going to. And the added benefits that Mindy just went through are astronomical to both the utility and our customers. So even though there was a net increase, the customer service increase was exponentially higher than that $40,000 value.
Victoria?
This might be for Jason too. So over the years, I wonder if that can that be tracked just to show the net benefit from that? I don't know if it could, but in the billing where you've caught the, whatever it is, so I wonder if it's capable, if you guys are capable of tracking that.
I think we can definitely identify a few places where we found we were under billing, which are huge also because that's then helps to pay for that internal cost. And then moving forward with moving to the program.
It could be underbilling too, and that's a service to the,
That's absolutely.
Yeah, to
all of
the
those are
customer,
really
right.
crucial. I think we can pick up a few of those, but I think in the long run, they're going to all drop off in this first year or two because we're finding all of those. So.
It would be nice to, if you, I'd love to see that.
Okay, I'll talk with Kimberly and see if there's something.
No, I know, and again, Jason and I have talked about it. There's so many immeasurable things that have happened because of bringing meter reading in. The amount of work orders that have decreased from just rereading that we were potentially getting wrong with our vendor and our contractor has changed the way we even rely on another work crew that Jason has in water distribution, which now they're able to now focus more on their work, which is truly working on the pipes. And so we're seeing this work that's being done that we haven't been able to potentially get to before.
I'm going to go Tom.
My question is with regard to the city services bill. It's been rising, and I'm interested to know how that's affected accounts receivable, and also whether there have been delinquencies that have led to disconnections at a higher rate or not.
So I may just come up to the podium. So yes, because of the rise in the overall total of the city services bill, we have noticed a rise in the delinquencies as well as a rise in our utility assistance program. So just a couple years ago, we were budgeting $50,000 and never getting to the total of putting that back into the community for those people who qualified for that program. Now we are well above $70,000 and we utilize 100% of those funds through April. So yes, it is there. As far as the delinquency rate, I don't think we've hit a threshold to see a true rise in total delinquency. The municipal code is pretty stringent in help with the turning off of the water when people are at certain delinquencies, which is why we have that utility assistance program.
Has there been much disconnection?
I would say dollar-wise, yes. Even there's always going to be a group of customers, though, that are habitual people that get turned off. What we were able to probably measure in the last couple of years is just the number of people has seemed to risen.
You good, Tom? Okay, I'm going to go to Nancy.
I'm back. There appears to be, under your personnel services, a 26% increase from your actuals in '25 to your proposed budget in '27. I don't see a corresponding increase in the positions. This is on page 251. There's some movement between, well, actually, there's not a lot of movement between the types of positions, but the number of personnel at 14 remains the same. So I was wondering if you could explain that 26%.
So part of that is staff turnover. Customer service had at least one position open for most of '25, and there was, I think, a few points where they had two positions open And I'm trying to think if there was, because I'm looking at thinking of the staff, and it was more on that side last year.
So in my time here in 4 years, of the 14, 10 people are new.
Any other questions for Mindy? Okay, thank you. Oh, Nick?
So on the 14 that are listed here, these are all positions that are filled, or that you're looking to fill some of them still?
Currently, we are, knock on wood, fully staffed.
Okay.
And we've been fully staffed now since I think December, because Kendra would have filled the last opening that we had.
And I'll just add to that. I know 10 sounds like a lot. I have 2 people who, since I've been here, got promotions as well. And we've had another person that got promoted from police into finance. The people at the front counter that do the customer service, utility, billing, answering phone calls, they're also normally on the lower end of the pay scale. And they take the first opportunity to move up and into other departments as well. So we've been very fortunate to hire good people. It's keeping them potentially and keeping the full 14 in their seats has been the challenge.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, thank you, Mindy.
Okay, we're almost there. I only got a couple more slides. I don't know if there'll be any questions, so maybe if I power through my slides, and then if there are any questions, we can move backwards. Most of these are pretty innocuous and auxiliary services, non-operating. So we have a lodging tax fund, environmental waste fees fund, a couple debt service funds, and the agency fund. So with a lodging tax fund, which is on pages 297 and 298, this collects all of the lodging taxes, and then we do have some small administration fees for monitoring this fund, as well as this is where the audit fees come out for auditing the lodging tax entities, which we rotate about 4 a year. The remainder of the funds, this is kind of a zero balance fund, as I would call it. The remainder of the funds get distributed based on the Muni Code out to tourism promotion, public safety, parks, economic development, and downtown development, as well as the parks, tours, and facility projects. If revenues come in over budget, which they will hopefully in this year, at an extra balance will be either transferred to the next year, but we're actually going to do a supplemental budget in this year, which will be coming up hopefully here at the end of May. Just as a reference, is also in your book, this is the estimated revenues for fiscal year 27, which is about $2.6 million. And based on our Muni Code, this is how all those funds would be distributed to each one of those programs. Next is the Environmental Waste Fees Fund. This is purely a pass-through. We get environmental program fees charged per ton of refuse collected by Republic and SOS as the sanitation haulers, and then the transportation per the solid waste franchise agreement. And again, these just get passed through to Josephine County Solid Waste Agency to coordinate expenditures for cleanup sites. And again, I call this kind of a zero balance fund. Money comes in here, and then we distribute it out. Next is the debt service for the Baycroft Fund. That's on pages 308 and 309. We did some borrowings of the local improvement districts previously, and so they financed those assessments and payments out of the solid waste capital construction fund, which is paying it back every year. So when we bill it and we receive those funds, this houses those bills and those revenues, and then those expenditures go back to the interfund loan, which is going back to the solid waste capital construction fund where the loan originated. The next is debt service, general obligation bonds. That's on page 310. It's from property taxes. We don't have general obligation bonds. Those expired in fiscal year 19. But what we do have is an AR out there of properties that have yet to pay on previous year property tax billings. There's only about $1,500 left in total that is owed to that account, but per ORS, we have to have its own fund to recognize those funds, and when we do receive those, we just pass them back to the general fund, which is what the ORS requires. The agency fund, which is on pages 311 and 312, the revenues for this is primarily interest revenues for deposits held in liability accounts that are not city monies. So as an example, we do have some deferred development agreements or DDAs that are held in trust and by contract earn interest on the deposited amount. We're currently holding about $1.9 million of deposits on those. And again, we apply interest back to each one of those accounts. Can't remember, there's a large amount here and I wrote myself a note. So we have 704 total deferred development agreements or DDAs, which is associated with 2,433 associated tax lots. So there's quite a bit out there that are still on the books that we keep track of. There's some other stuff in this fund too. We hold like police forfeiture, seizure, and evidence that aren't technically ours until the courts decide that they are ours or that we need to turn them over to the appropriate agencies as well. Next is pages 322 through 332, and it is PERS. And as a reminder, per council direction, a side account was created through the Employer Incentive Fund with a 25% match of $2 million contribution. So we got a free $500,000 from the state, which will be amortized over the next 20 years. The discount for that $2.5 million right now is a little less than 1%, or that 0.96 for the biennium. Since its inception on July 1st of 2023, we've saved the city about $576,000 in our PERS rates. Annually, when you kind of discount that back, we're looking at a little bit over $200,000 a year. We are mid-biennium with PERS, but just as a reminder, I have our PERS rates that are on there for Tier 1, Tier 2, and then our OPSERT General and our OPSERT Police and Fire, as well as that sign account. And you can see the history of our PERS rate. It keeps going up. To be fair, I don't know when it'll stop. We keep, at the state level, potentially changing some of the rules. So a couple years ago, they changed the age in which OPSERT Police and Fire can retire. So it shortened that life from 60 years to 55. I believe they've already approved that the telecommunicators, which is another word for dispatchers, will be eligible for police and fire PERS rates in 2030, starting January 1st. So again, they're constantly tinkering with PERS and what it is, and so when they do these tinkers, I don't necessarily see them saving the city money because it looks like it's more of a benefit for potentially the individuals. And then just as a general overview, this is what our PERS costs look like for historical purposes, as well as what we estimate the fiscal year 26 or our current fiscal year at, and then 27 and 28. And that is a big jump for 27 and 28. The reason being are the 13 new people, as it is tied to wages. So that is the predominant increase. And then the increase for 28 will be the next biennium. So there's the estimation that those rates are also going to increase in 2028. And with that, I'll take any of those auxiliary program questions.
Okay, thank you, JC. Do we have questions? Nice job, no questions.
I'm trying to get us out of here for Taco Tuesday.
Oh, Tom's going to save me. We have we're going to go to Tom.
On page 312, auxiliary services, the line item interest is interesting. It has jumped around quite a bit, and I'm sure that's because of changes in the amount that is invested earning that interest. But I'm particularly interested not just in this case, but throughout the budget, the proposed fiscal '27 line item for interest seems to be generally headed down. Is that your intent?
So generically throughout the city, I don't necessarily recommend for our programs to look at their actuals to project interest. There's some financial reporting quirkiness that we have to adjust for market valuation. That isn't the true necessary interest coupons that we receive day in and day out. But as well as the market has been coming down as of recently. And so I don't want us to necessarily position ourselves to be dependent on those revenues. And it's more of if it comes in above our budgetary projection, then that gives the department, the program, a little bit more flexibility to what they can do with their programs versus relying on true interest revenues. Philosophically, it's just trying to be as conservative as can be to not necessarily overextend ourselves. So I have a career that spans over 2008 and 2014. And if anybody remembers what happened in both of those time periods, interest rates almost went to zero. And what happened budgetarily for some of those programs is they were counting on some of those investment earnings and other things that were tied to financial gains. And what you found is a real destruction of certain programs out there because there wasn't that foresight and planning as far as these revenues potentially aren't guaranteed.
Just a quick follow-up, if I may. The city's investment account is now at about $150 million. And with the deposit of the bond proceeds, we're up over $200 million in cash, earning 3 3/4% roughly. So that's a substantial interest income. And while interest rates could go down, it doesn't seem real likely now, shouldn't that number be a little more, shall we say, attempt to be accurate?
Well, again, I never know what the future holds. And if I had a crystal ball and knew the future, I probably wouldn't be here in front of you guys. I'd be probably on an island somewhere. But I do want to point out a couple things to your comment. If we go back to your green book or the capital book, for WA 6207, which is the water treatment plant, which is page 70. I'm watching everybody get there. Sorry for the delay or the dramatic pause. So we actually are projecting a revenue in a project, which is rare for us. Per IRS rules, I can reinvest that $65 million because obviously we can't just spend $65 million overnight, and we do have a cash flow of construction and expenses that will happen over time. I can reinvest those monies and have worked with the investment advisor to have a maturity happen approximately in alignment with our cash flow projections and invest all those monies accordingly and earn interest as much as I can over the time span it'll take to spend that $65 million. So that's part of the answer to your question. We think we'll spend $65 million in about 15 months. It'll probably be a little bit above that $1 million where you see another $200,000 in the following year because it will go across multiple fiscal years. So yes, we are investing those funds, and this is going directly back to the project based on our IRS rules and requirements. The others of the city, we proportionally give interest to the funds that are holding the cash. And so based on what we are earning, we give it back to those funds. And it kind of is a more complicated answer in the sense that we have certain funds that are cyclical. And so the general fund per se, their fund balance is going to drop from July to October because the main influx comes from property taxes in November and December. And so their proportion of interest for the beginning part of the year, or that 4 months, is actually going to earn less than maybe the rest of the year, because they're going to have about $20+ million in fund balance and revenues for the rest of the year to make it through there. And so again, it's complicated, but we try and do the best that we can. And I'm not trying to potentially put any program in a position to where we are overvaluing what we could be getting. We've done very well, and I think we've gotten flexibility for certain capital projects and other things in certain funds because we have gained some good interest. But we don't necessarily want to count on that and promise the community a project or a service that we can't deliver.
Thank you. I think that makes sense. I also would like to add that if the actual amount of interest revenue for a department exceeds what's in the budget, that would then contribute to their ending fund balance. So it doesn't go away. It's available for a later period.
That is correct. And with the council approving the new fund balance policy, we've kind of got it more on our forefront, whatever word I'm trying to use here, of seeing all those fund balances for all those operating areas, of making sure that we adhere to, for the enterprise fund, that 25%, because we want to make sure that if there's excess revenues that we can account for, that we can move those into capital or look at some of our operational needs that may need further contributions, whether it's equipment replacement, IT replacement, some of these things that we know we're behind in.
Do we have other questions for JC? Nick?
Yes, so on 329, we've got there's a PERS chart. That's for the state, correct? Not for, it's an unfunded actuarial liability?
Yes, that is from the states.
Okay, does the city itself have any unfunded liability when it comes to PERS, or does that fall squarely on the state?
So financially, we report one. Physically, I don't have a bill per se of what the city's true unfunded liability is, but they are calculating it on our behalf. They come up with our rate. They come up with the investment plan for the entirety of the state. And then there's a lot more information on the Oregon website that they go through, and they'll define everybody's rates throughout the state. And you can kind of see that no one city is the same.
Is it possible to get that number, what they've calculated for Grants Pass, or is that?
Yeah, I can try and find it.
Okay, just curious.
Thank you, Nick. Other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you, JC. And I'll try this again. At this point of the meeting, I'm going to open the opportunity for public comment. I see no members of the public here with us tonight. Coming back to the committee, do we have general questions or information requests beyond what we've asked at this point? Rob?
Yeah, we may have gone over this, but I didn't catch it, and it may be real simple. JC can probably answer pretty quickly. So on the special revenue funds, can you just explain to me the difference between the lodging tax fund and the tourism fund?
Really good question. The lodging tax fund houses the entirety of the $2.6 million revenues. The tourism promotion fund just handles the piece that is the tourism promotion, which handles the contractual services with the DMO, the chamber, some of our tourism promotion grants, and the other administrative costs for those pieces.
So it's all coming out, it's all part of the $2.5 million. Is that correct or no? Thank you.
Okay, Bob, did I see you have a question? Oh, microphone. Oh, thanks.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Ray.
The lodging tax, with the cost of fuel, with the cost of fuel, and my guess is that we're going to have a reduction in our lodging tax. Are you anticipating that, or do you have another crystal ball to look at?
No, don't have a crystal ball. We try and be, again, conservative with what we're seeing. If we go back to Monday's presentation, you can see, and if you go further back, COVID was a spike for us for lodging tax dollars. Since COVID in 2021, the lodging tax revenues has actually gone down each year. This year, fiscal year 26, is the first year it's gone up, and it's kind of matching closer to 2023. But you can definitely see certain trends, like you're talking about, when gas prices go up and other things happen. Wildfires is another good example, that we can kind of notice some of those trends from comparing previous years around the same period of time. I'm comfortable with them, but again, something could happen tonight or tomorrow that changes my comfort level.
Okay, do we have other questions for JC? And we're still in the general questions or information requests at this point. If we have no other general questions, I would ask for a motion to approve tentatively budget of programs discussed.
So moved.
Thank you, Nick. We have a motion on the table by Nick. Do I have a second? Bob? Motion by Nick, second by Bob. Do we have questions on the motion? Seeing none, does anybody want to make comments? Okay, I will move to a roll call vote, starting with Kathleen.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
And Adriana?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. So at this point, Aaron, I'm going to ask you to help prompt me for the motion to approve the property tax rate.
Certainly, I will do so just with a general budget recap and then provide some suggested motions for you. So as we mentioned in the budget message, there are 4 phases, and we are looking at completing the first phase and the second phase this evening, where the budget committee will be approving the budget. After it gets approved, the budget will then go to the city council, where the city council ultimately adopts that budget. We're here on May 5th, where we looked at administration and finance, and we're also going to be looking at the urban renewal agency. We will close as the city budget committee, and we will reopen as an urban renewal agency after you approve the budget for the city. You'll do a similar process for the urban renewal agency. So there are a couple things that would need to be accomplished today. Part of the phase 2 is to approve the budget. Final motions and actions to complete the budget committee requirements are to approve the budget in total, which is on page 40, and then to approve the property tax rates, specifically the $4.1335 per thousand for the assessed value of our permanent property tax rate and the $1.79 for our public safety levy. So I have 2 motions that coincide with those 2 actions for the budget committee. The first one is the total budget, and this is the total budget and a potential sample motion.
Thank you for the help on that. I would open the floor to a motion to approve the budget. Kathleen?
I move that the Budget Committee of the City of Grants Pass approve the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027, as amended, in the amount of $297,247,088.
Great job, thank you. Second by Tom. Any questions? Any discussion? JC?
I just want to remind the budget committee that this does include the wastewater change in that with the words as amended.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other further discussion? Nancy?
Yeah, I just want to comment that our total budget last year was $240 million, and this year it's 297 million, recognizing that it includes the wastewater treatment. But that is really a significant increase year to year.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in the beginning, during the budget message, the majority of that is all water treatment plant, and there's an additional about $3 million that was associated with personnel cost increases due to the FT increases.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, with a motion and a second on the table, I'm going to start with a roll call vote on Rob's side. Rob?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
And Adriana?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Chair, there's one more motion in front of the Budget Committee to complete step 2, and it's in front of you.
I would open the floor to an accept motion. Comment for JC.
Just a comment, please read all the decimal points.
I was already having trouble getting the motion. Okay, thank you, Christina. Go ahead.
I move that the Budget Committee of the City of Grants Pass approve property taxes for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027 at the rate of $4.1335 per 1,000 of assessed value for the permanent tax rate levy and in the amount of $1.79 for the public safety operating levy.
Nicely done. Thank you, Christina. Motion on the floor. I have a second by Kathleen. Do we have questions? Do we have comments? Excellent. With that, I'm going to start with a roll call vote, starting with Kathleen.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 And Adriana?
Yes.
Excellent. Motion passes unanimously. We're good to adjourn?
So yeah, that concludes that. I just want to, before we do adjourn, as the Budget Committee for this year, I do want to thank the Budget Committee members, the City Council members for providing the policy direction in advance and getting to a place where we had the Budget Committee be able to provide some very thoughtful comments and even changes and amendments to the proposed budget, and that is greatly appreciated. And then also to dedicated professional staff and all the hard work that we did. It took months in the making to get here, and the Finance Department was such a key to that, along with all of our department directors, and a special thanks to JC for his professionalism and knowledge in putting and helping to prepare this budget also.
And thank you to you, Aaron, the entire city team. With that, I'm going to adjourn the Budget Committee meeting on May 5th, 2026. At this time, we will convene the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee meeting, and we will start that off with nominations for the Budget Chair. So we have nominations for Chair of the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee meeting. Go ahead, Victoria.
I nominate Terry Hopkins, Chair.
Okay. Rick is the second. Do we have other nominations for Chair? Seeing none, we'll start with a roll call vote. Kathleen.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
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 And Adriana?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I will open nominations for Vice Chair for the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee. Rick?
I'd like to nominate Tom Bradbeer for the Vice Chair.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Nancy? Thank you for that. Do I have any other nominations for Vice Chair? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, starting with Rob.
Yes.
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 Abstain.
Yes.
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 And Adriana?
Can I vote twice, one for myself and one for Tom with a yes?
Yes. Oh, no, but your vote counts. Okay, so we have completed elections. We are going to get the budget, well, we've already received the budget message for this, so.
We'll be receiving a new budget message just for the Urban Renewal Agency. I'll give you a brief background, and then we'll move into, we're doing phase 1 and 2 all in one night here with the Urban Renewal Agency.
Thank you for that.
Okay. With me this evening also, I have Dana, and she'll be able to assist with any additional detailed questions that you may have. So you'll be receiving the budget message for the Urban Renewal Agency, a budget summary. We'll take a look at the capital projects review and then look at approving the budget. For financial reporting purposes, we went through this process because the Urban Renewal Agency has a separate board, and that is currently the City Council, but also you have a separate budget committee also for that. And so this is you now serving as the Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee. City Council does act as that board, and it's the same budget process that you just completed. The Urban Renewal Agency has a list of projected goals when it comes to projects, and those projects are prioritized through Council's strategic plan. And they look at that on an annual basis and review that program that we have. Fiscal year 27 is the 10th annual budget for this agency. That's sort of exciting. The budget accounts are for receiving tax increment revenues, and I'll go into that with a little more detail. Revenues are applied to eligible projects based on council's prioritization and project timing needs. So it's not always about maybe where council wants to go first. Sometimes it has to do with the private sector. Private sector investor might come in and incentivize something associated with the Urban Renewal Agency project, and that may be prioritized first. Full list of projects are available and can be found in Appendix A on page 4 through 6 of the recommended budget document. So for those of you or people that are listening, what is urban renewal? It's a program specific to providing improvements to poorly developed or underdeveloped, what's considered blighted in Oregon Revised Statute language. It's authorized from the state of Oregon, and it's used throughout the state of Oregon. And cities can ultimately, they technically can have more than one urban renewal agency within themselves. We currently have one. It provides a financing mechanism to implement cities' plans by using tax increment financing and focusing on blighted, underutilized areas. So in theory, this is how it works. An urban renewal agency starts in year 1, and in the area that is formed, that tax base is frozen. So for the next, say, 26, 30 years, depending on how long the urban renewal agency continues, that tax base is frozen, and any increments above that frozen base goes specifically to the urban renewal agency. So the taxing districts still get the same amount of money in that area, and all the extra goes to the urban renewal agency for programs and projects as defined by the board. So you've got this frozen base, and then each year it increases, and it has been increasing. If you look at our budget, you'll notice that the taxes continue to increase, which is a very positive. And throughout these years, you start utilizing the revenues for certain programs of blighted areas. The concept is, with this, you're investing a lot of money here, which in the end, when it closes, has had a better market tax rate because of all the improvements you've done in the community, versus if you didn't have that, that investment would not have been focused on those blighted areas. So this provides an opportunity to take blighted, underutilized, undertaxed areas and invest money by incentivizing, taking public dollars and incentivizing private investment. For instance, in urban renewal agencies like ours, we have sort of a rule where we'll try to invest 25% of public dollars to incentivize a 75% investment in private dollars. Here on the screen are the taxing districts. I think it's important to note, because people say, well, my goodness, the school district is associated with that, but the school district technically gets its dollars from the state. So there's no frozen tax base when it comes to School District 7. And I think that's an important piece to recognize. This sort of goes into a little more detail on what I was explaining. You take a blighted condition, something that doesn't have proper infrastructure. Say, for instance, Spalding with that needed sewer, or let's say there's an old mill site that has a lot of encumbrances on it because maybe it's got some environmental, or maybe it's got buildings and structures that just are, no one wants to invest in cleaning it up. The Urban Renewal Agency can come in, take that blighted area, clean up the property, take care of the encumbrances, or add public infrastructure, water, sewer, electrical, et cetera, to make that more marketable, and then that incentivizes that private investment. And then ultimately, that increases the tax base. Really, there's a lot of leeway when it comes to programs that you can implement. It's the imagination of the community also, but there's been some wonderful things. This is in San Francisco, a big area down there, sort of by Golden Gate. This here is Tom McCall Park. This was a very blighted area, and Urban Renewal Agency dollars were utilized to create Tom McCall Park in Portland. The Urban Renewal Agency itself encompasses 18% of our property area, and it's highlighted in yellow. Primarily, if you look at the yellow area, that is commercial and industrial. A lot of it, the industrial over here, and then commercial up and down the highway corridors. Now, it's important to note that the taxes that are frozen over that 26 or 30-year period are just the property taxes that are received in the Urban Renewal Agency area, not in all of the city. So that's an important piece to know also. Here is a list of our Urban Renewal Agency plan and the potential projects. As you've noticed, based on the Budget Committee's recommendation, I'll show you a number here. Both sewer and water are providing an 18% debt cost, and then there's a number of other programs associated with the program totaling a $50 million Urban Renewal Agency. So here we have our Urban Renewal Agency. This can be found on page 1 of that document, where we're taking a look at the overall budget. You've got your total Urban Renewal Agency assessed value. You've got your frozen base for the city. You've got your excess value, which is what goes into the calculation for the Urban Renewal Agency, which equals for 27 budget, we're projecting just about $3 million. And as you see, that goes up each year as tax base continues to increase. Here's the proposed budget on page 3 of your document you could find. Primarily, what we're doing is you take a look at transfers. The transfers are very high. Now, we've got transfers specifically associated with it going to an LB project to provide council maximum flexibility. The first few years we did the Urban Renewal Agency, we put $250,000 in this project, $150,000 in this project, $1 million in this project, and it sort of tied up some of those resources, and there were years that we didn't utilize any of that. So what we've done is we've taken all of the flexible dollars for the Urban Renewal Agency and provided the most flexibility for council. Let's see, I want to highlight the contractual and professional services. This was at $1.3 million, it's gone down to $460,000, which is an $886,000 difference. That is really due to this decrease is due to a grant carryover from Home Bridging Project. You may be familiar with Home Bridging Project, but they're building a number of homes for people in the community. They've received a number of grant programs through the Urban Renewal Agency, but this is showing a reduction because they've been doing the projects and there's only this amount left. So we're projecting about $460,000 for Home Bridging this year. Okay, something I want to note and make sure that you see also is for the proposed fiscal year 27 budget, we have a debt allocation for the water plant and for the wastewater plant. So that is in the projected budget for council to consider. Now, where and how they apply that credit will ultimately be a policy decision the council will need to determine, and that would need to be determined before the end of the calendar year. So we'll be addressing that with council in the future. The Budget Committee's tentative approval will be for allocating the $8,345,590 in the above categories that you see here. We do have a $250,000 grant program, and Dana can talk about that a little bit if you have any questions there. We have some grant carryover, and the special payments are those transfers to allow maximum flexibility. So council will have about $5.6 million in there to provide maximum flexibility to utilize our renewal agency. We also have $1.5 million to finish up to do Caveman Pool and Northwest Washington Boulevard lots of $100,000 to help with that project. In summary, the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency will be an effective tool for economic development, the removal of blight, creating economic opportunities, bringing state resources to Grants Pass, and accomplishing council's and community's goals. We've got a great project right now. You've heard about it already, the North Star project up there, the Washington Midland. That's an exciting opportunity where the community is going to really see where an urban renewal agency can have some great benefit to the community and increase the tax base. Any questions?
I'm going to start with Victoria.
What happens to the taxing district at the end of the 30 years? I'm just curious.
At the end of the 30 years, when the urban renewal agency concludes its service, then the frozen base goes away and the full taxes go back to that taxing district. And that's one of those benefits is because of all the investment that was done, it's going to be bigger than it would have been if we didn't have that in the first place.
And then do you have are there any URA districts who have come to the end of their 30 years? Are we there yet in other cities? And have they re-upped them or changed their boundaries? I'm just curious about that too.
So you can throughout the year, you can throughout the life of the urban renewal agency change the boundary if only by a small percentage. You can only do 25% of your area for an urban renewal agency. We have recently, before we started this one in 2016, I think it was around 2014, we did conclude a previous urban renewal agency. And so we finished off the projects. One of the last projects, actually the last project of that urban renewal agency was the restroom at Tussing Park. So that was the last urban renewal agency project, and then we closed that out. So they do close out. Sometimes if they come to their conclusion and there's revenue still in the bank, then that is allocated out accordingly to all of the taxing districts.
Can you make you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask it maybe in a different way. So let's say that we don't feel, at the end of it, it's achieved its aims and those property values are up, but we want to change it to go down all the way, down Redwood Highway, Can
Yeah.
you make an entirely new one?
Yes, and that's a great question because sometimes that's exactly what happens. You'll have a successful urban renewal agency that has taken the blight in that area and then done great things, but now you've got another area that has slowed in development, and so you can create a new urban renewal agency to address that issue.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions in urban renewal? I'm going to go Tom and then Nancy.
Thank you, Aaron. Urban renewal districts can be a really powerful tool for economic development. And one of the tools might be to support private sector investment by making low-interest loans. That reduces the investment cost of that project and can provide a real incentive for developers to proceed with their project. Has the Urban Renewal Agency considered making loans at low interest rates rather than grants?
Hello, everyone. I'm Dana Pierce. I'm Economic Development Manager here at the city. To answer your question, Tom, we have looked into that. We've done some research on low-interest loans. The Urban Renewal Agency has considered it. There hasn't been a final decision on how we would move forward with it. We have explored looking at a third-party administrator of a loan. They did decide that they maybe didn't want to do a revolving loan because of the high interest you'd have to apply to it in order to put those funds back in. But they're still considering whether or not they might do some sort of subsidy in order to allow people to use a low-interest loan to incentivize development. So.
And we've seen this in other communities work well. Sometimes they'll do a low-interest loan just for like second-story historic buildings or something along those lines that have a lot of encumbrances when it comes to creating a livable or a business space in today's standards. And so there are programs that have been successful that utilize that as a tool.
A related approach might be to take an equity position in the firm, corporation, investing in development in Grants Pass. I've read about some areas that have used that very effectively, particularly in support of affordable housing. By maintaining an equity position or ownership of that project, the city then is in a position to manage it and be sure that the rules about affordable housing are enforced even beyond low-income housing tax credit funding. Has there been consideration of taking an equity position in a firm investing in the urban renewal district?
I'll take that one. Okay. So if we were to do some kind of loan program, yes, an equity position would be something that would likely be recommended as a policy decision for council to make. I'm not sure from a risk perspective and from an ownership perspective. There's another layer that you talked about from a policy decision is does the city want to, if you were going to also utilize this for low-income housing, HUD housing, or et cetera, do we want to take on an active role in maintaining compliance and maybe even start a system that's already in place and working within our community? So that would be a whole nother issue, but yes, if we were to do loans, an equity position would be something that would be recommended.
Okay, Nancy?
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the swimming pool. It appears in the capital budget there's a little over $1.5 million for repairs.
Yes.
And there's $5 million in the URA plan. Right? Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, that's a number. Ultimately, we have not changed the Urban Renewal Agency plan formally with council, but council has identified that we could utilize the 1.5 of that. Likely those dollars would then go into another project.
So the remainder, the other $3.5 million would go into another project. And I apologize, I don't remember over the last few years, but
Sure.
What would be the total cost to replace the pool?
So we're trying to get different, it all depends on what we want to do and ultimately what council would like to do. We're looking at something around $1.2 to $1.5 million to take the existing pool and get it fully operational to today's standards, but not do any major modification improvements.
Okay, but that would make it fully usable for the next X number of years, and we wouldn't be incurring the loss of water, and we wouldn't have pipes
Correct.
breaking and all of that.
It'd be taking a look at all of those items and getting those fixed and bringing them up to standard. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron, Nick, thank you. One quick one while he's on that slide and actually on that topic. Any of those, and because Nancy brought it up, the pool, am I correct in assuming that because that's, what they allocated in 2022, those numbers, and using the pool as an example of 5 million, is not what's in that fund today. That would be at the term of the urban renewal at its completion in 30 years? Or is that 5 million accrued today?
Well, technically, not a lot of that money at all is in those exact funds. That's not how we're doing it anymore. We're just allocating the authority for council to utilize funds in general for these projects. So it doesn't mean that at the end of 30 years, we have to spend $5 million in swimming pool.
Right. But that 5 million is not, if it were, everything were used exactly as originally allocated, that $5 million is not accrued yet. That's at the end of the 30 years.
Oh, the accrued, well, that's the beauty of it. It's all a timing thing. I mean, when we first started the renewal agency, we were only bringing in, like, I think the first year, a little over $500,000, and it's increased to $3 million now. So it all depends on what you have. But you can also borrow from that if you have a large project for future revenues coming in. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for yielding. Nick, I'll go over to you.
Yeah, I just want to ask, you mentioned Spalding as a successful example of projects that have fallen under this agency. Can you name just a few more? I'm curious.
Well, right now, we've got our largest project, or first largest project, where we've purchased property and we're incentivizing that private investment, is our North Star project on Washington Midland. We have done a number of smaller projects focused on more grants that Dana's had firsthand with when it comes to blighted buildings or getting buildings up to standards with, say, sprinkler systems or whatever it is. Council's currently right now looking at a vandalism aspect of this also, where if structures have been vandalized, they can utilize urban renewal dollars to help fix some of those things that have occurred, whether it be a broken window, door, awning, whatever it is. So our largest project to date is the North Star project.
Great. Any other questions? I'm going to go to Eric.
Thank you, Aaron, for the presentation. I had a question in terms of in the packet that we have here on page 5, paragraph 15, you've got downtown plaza, streetscape, lighting, and restrooms, and then my question is towards the lighting. It goes on to say decorative street lighting. Does it also include lighting for dark alleys, other things to help out businesses light up their alleys?
That is a grant. You want to talk about the grant for that?
Yeah. In the urban renewal plan, the focus was more to upgrade the street lighting, to extend some of the downtown historic lighting further. It wasn't so much focused on alleyways, that kind of thing. We do have a grant program that's separate from urban renewal that does focus on storefront lighting. But the main purpose of that originally in the plan was extending, and that came through a downtown focus group that really wanted to target lighting for downtown.
Okay, thank you so much.
Tom?
One of the other tools of an urban renewal agency is to issue bonds that take on debt to leverage private investment. And I haven't read or heard any discussion of the potential of a bond issue by the Urban Renewal Agency that would then be retired using URA funds. That can also be a very powerful tool, especially for a major project that would require multi-millions. And if there were a bond issue, then that wouldn't deplete the URA funds as much. It would spread it out. Are those bonds, if they were issued, tax advantaged?
JC says yes, they are.
They're like a municipal bond?
Yes, I believe so. I'd have to double check that, but I'm pretty certain that is the case.
That would make them attractive. But has there been discussion or any planning of debt issue?
If and when a project of that size that merits that type of bond issuing, we would definitely have that discussion when it comes specifically to the Urban Renewal Agency. And there are some potential opportunities in the future where we may need to discuss that.
Okay, other questions under urban renewal? Okay.
Thank you.
With that, I will open it up to public comment. I still see no members of the public here. So do we have general questions or information requests related to urban renewal at this point?
Chair, there's two potential motions for you next when you get to that part on the agenda.
I think I'm there and would gladly accept that help.
The first one is on the screen.
Did I? Okay. I move the Budget Committee of the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency approve the property taxes for the 2026 through 2027 fiscal year tax increment for the maximum amount of revenue that may be raised by dividing the taxes for the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Plan area under Section 1C, Article 9 of the Oregon Constitution and ORS Chapter 457.
Thank you, Nick. Do I have a second? We've got Bob for a second. At this point, I'll open it up for questions. No questions, we'll move to comments. No comments, we're going to start with the roll call vote, starting with Kathleen.
Yes.
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 And Adriana?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Next motion is on the screen, Chair.
Okay, I open the floor to the next motion. Thank you, Nick.
I move that the Budget Committee of the Grants Pass Urban Renewal Agency approve the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027 in the amount of $8,472,590.
Thank you, Nick. Do I have a second? I'm going to take Eric's second. At this point, do we have any questions? Comments? Starting with Kathleen for a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 And Adriana?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Aaron, do you have anything further before we adjourn the Budget Committee?
No, Chair, that concludes the presentation.
I'd like to thank you, the staff, fellow members of Budget Committee that slogged through putting up with me as the rookie chair. You're appreciated. With that, we will adjourn the Budget Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.